Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're receiving this information. My name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman, and I am a professor in the Humanities Department at Santa Rosa Junior College. I also have a nonprofit organization that focuses on mental health and other resources for the immigrant population in Sonoma County. Its name is Líderes del Futuro Avanzando. And today we want to talk about some tips for students who are studying at community colleges and universities. And we're going to provide you with a lot of information because the goal here is to promote higher education. We want to make sure that you are going to be successful during your college years. The first thing that we need to do is celebrate. You should take a moment and celebrate your decision to attend college. There could be many options for you. You could have gone to work, and perhaps you went to work for a year or 2 or 5 or 10, and now you have decided to come back to college. So welcome. It is a decision that can give you many, many benefits. Including among those benefits is the ability to learn how to analyze information. Also, by collaborating in the classroom, you're going to learn how to collaborate with colleagues in the workforce later on. And so these tools are essential. You're also going to remember, hopefully, that learning is a lifetime process. Because of the changes with artificial intelligence, some of us who have a specific careers now will have to come back into the classroom and get further education in order to better our skills and be able to compete in the workforce. And that makes you more employable. And so it's important for us to understand all of the great benefits of a college education. By getting new skills on a regular basis, you will be able to get higher pay, become a manager, a supervisor, or perhaps own your own company. And then those type of careers often have other benefits, such as vacation and a retirement plan. And it is important, again, to take time from our jobs or careers in the future in order to be able to just take a moment and relax. By having a college education, you're increasing the chances that you're going to do this. Now, if you're one of those individuals, one of those students that is coming into college and you're saying, I don't know yet what career I'm going to pursue, that is okay. There are classes in college that are meant specifically to support you with that career education or career development. And also, most of the colleges and universities have career centers that you can go to, and individuals can give you tools for exploring. And so, look into that. And then the other thing that is important here is make sure you have a 10-year plan. And it could look something like this. A 10-year plan. So let's say that in 10 years, you want to have your own home and be able to, again, enjoy a vacation once in a while and enjoy the career that you have. What are the steps that you're going to take in order to get there? It is essential that you stop talking and thinking in ways such as, I would like to have this career. Get rid of those and say, I will have this. Or I need to have that career. No, I will have that career. So when you're thinking about your 10-year plan, you say things like, let's say you're going to become an attorney, an immigration attorney or a divorce attorney or some other type of attorney. And you say, I am starting at the community college today, and in 6 months, I will have finished my first semester. In 6 months, I will be applying for scholarships for the next school year. In 1 year, I will have this GPA, whether it is, a 3.5, a 4.0. In 3 years, I will be at UC Berkeley. In 5 years, I will be starting my or halfway through my law degree, and so on and so forth. Once you have a goal, you can go back and write down the steps that are going to take you to that goal. And if 3 months or 6 months is too much, then again, break it down into smaller chunks. And there's nothing wrong with that. People who have been successful work with 10-year plans. Sometimes they start with 1 month and 2 months and so on and so forth. But we really want you to have a 10-year plan. Many of us faculty uh, are individuals who have 10-year plans. And it's not all about retirement. It's about, I'm going to get that other degree. I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to do this other thing as well. Right. So I invite you to think this way. Create your own 10-year plan and start writing down your goals. And again, start thinking like this. I will accomplish this. I will accomplish that. And you will be more successful. And at the same time, it's important for us to clarify that college success requires a great deal of discipline. If you are somebody who just graduated high school or got your GED, again, high school worked in one way where teachers, for the most part, would lecture maybe for 20 minutes, and then you would have the rest of the period to work on what later on would become your homework if you didn't finish it in the classroom. In high school, you had to ask permission to go use the restroom. College is a whole different world. The university is a whole different world. You're not sitting in the classroom from 8 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. But although a full-time student technically is 12 hours in the classroom, you should plan for 24 to 30 hours of homework, depending on the type of classes that you're going to take. If you're going to take a lot of math and biology and physiology and anatomy and chemistry, you're going to take more time to do this work, and nobody's going to be chasing you to get it done. It's important that you start thinking with this type of mentality. And I'm going to go on now to share some of the challenges that faculty find with some students. And then we'll talk about successful behaviors. So we have to present both of these pieces of information with the hope that you will not make this mistake. And I invite you to come back and review this information as many times as you need to and share it with other individuals so that they too will be successful. There are certain behaviors that demonstrate a questionable level of maturity. For example, talking during lectures, or chewing gum, or eating or drinking noisily. Now, some faculty, like myself, recognize that there are some students who go from class to class to class, and there is no breaks for you to have a meal. But what I invite my students to do is I invite them, if you're going to eat during class, do it in a way that is discreet and don't bring food that is noisy, and two, that is going to fill the room with a certain aroma. And this is for multiple reasons, including that there may be other students in the classroom who also haven't had the time to get a meal in, and now you're distracting them with your food. That is important. The other piece here is the inability to work in small groups. And this means that in my classroom, for example, we are often having discussions in groups of 3, in groups of 4, mostly in groups of 3. And what students don't recognize often is that I'm all the way at the front or I'm walking around the classroom, but I'm paying attention to everything. And sometimes there's a student there that is just sitting there but doesn't contribute. And so faculty have difficulty with that because it shows that the student may not be ready to be doing college level work. The other one is being late or leaving early. If you're going to be late and you know that you're going to be late, again, if you know ahead of time, notify the faculty member. And two, come in and don't go across the classroom all the way to the other side. Sit by the door so that is the less distractive to all involved, the faculty, but the students in the classroom. Two, if you're going to be leaving early, notify the faculty, right? I apologize. I do have a medical appointment that I have to get to. I hope it's okay. And I'm going to sit over here by the door so that I'm not distracting everybody as I leave. Creating other type of disturbances. Again, we have some students who sometimes have their cell phones go off. But the other one is students who bring their laptops and they sit somewhere towards the front, but they're not necessarily taking notes. Therefore, many faculty members do not allow students to take notes using their laptops. Check in with your faculty member about this. And then being insincere. Sometimes we have students who in high school, maybe it worked for them, or somewhere out there in the world, it worked for them. But faculty can tell when individuals are being insincere, and that's not something that faculty respond well to. The other thing that sometimes happens with students when they graduate high school or they have been away from school for a while and they're coming back to college is complaining about the workload. There may be 30 pages that the student needs to read during that week for this class. And sometimes we hear students are complaining to other students in the classroom, but it's loud enough so that the faculty is able to hear this. Again, in college, it's all about self-discipline. You should also read ahead, and this is important. If a faculty member assigns a reading for Monday, it doesn't mean that you come into the classroom and then go back and read the material. You should have read that material ahead of time and then come into the classroom, mostly to ask clarifying questions. But that's it. So it's really important. The faculty often is not going to go over what you read, but is going to add sometimes the equivalent of 100, 200, or up to 300 pages worth of information during the lecture. But if you haven't read, you're going to be lost during this conversation in the classroom. And that's why some students are unable to participate in small group discussions. The other thing is if you are a student who participates most of the time, you keep raising your hand. Again, sometimes it's best to just write a note to yourself and open the possibility for students who don't usually participate to raise their hand and do so. You can also communicate with the faculty member during office hours about your questions and concerns, perhaps. But it is important to create an environment where everybody feels like they can participate and they don't rely on you to be the only one. And then making fun of others. Now, this is behavior that is not acceptable, not just by the faculty member, but often college policies do not tolerate this. Making fun of somebody because of the fact that they speak English as a second or third language, or that they have some form of limitation physically or emotionally, or learning, also known as a disability. None of that behavior will be tolerated by faculty. And in fact, those individuals will be referred for disciplinary action. So it's really important to keep this in mind. Then there are the behaviors that show that you are not paying attention, including showing up unprepared. Again, you should have read ahead of time, review ahead of time what is going to be discussed this week or this session, instead of raising your hand and asking, what are we going to talk about today? You should already know. All faculty members will provide a syllabi at the beginning of the semester, and that is as close to a legal contract as possible, where you should know ahead of time what will be discussed. Not showing up to class, it's a problem, especially if this happens on a regular basis, because many of us as faculty members, I give a high percentage of the final grade to participation. And if you're not present, then you cannot participate. Sleeping during class. Again, this is essential. If you're coming from work at 8 in the morning and you have a 9 in the morning class, maybe that's not the best option. Because if you're going to be falling asleep in class, not only are you not getting your sleep, but you're not getting the material. And that's going to affect your grade and be disrespectful to the space where you are. So in college, you can create your schedule. Therefore, we invite you to create a schedule that is going to work for you. Acting board, again, this is another thing. If this professor and the way they're presenting the material is not the way that it's beneficial to you, again, go and find another class with another professor that is going to work for you. One thing that is important here is that ahead of time, a month or 2 months ahead of time, you go and see your counselor to choose the classes for the next semester. And once you know who's going to be teaching what classes, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to a professor and saying, can I stop in your class for one session so that I can see if this is the right learning environment for me? Now, also understand that not all faculty will accommodate to that. Sometimes it's because it's distracting, so on and so forth, but there's nothing wrong with asking or going during office hours of that faculty member and asking, hey, can you tell me how do you run your classes? Is it mostly lecture? Is it group work? How do you do it? And faculty have office hours for a reason. And they're happy to have students stop by and have a conversation with them. Packing up your books and materials before class ends. So this one is important for multiple reasons. Some of us, this has happened to me. Sometimes I'm so interested in the material. I teach classes about gangs. I teach classes about Latin America and the Caribbean. I teach classes about popular culture in the United States, including the influences of Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that stuff, that sometimes I forget the time. But the first day of class, I ask students, please raise your hand and remind me if I'm running overtime, because I don't want to be disrespectful of your time. But packing up your backpack and making all that noise is disrespectful. And so faculty keep, they notice this type of stuff. So we really invite you to be respectful. And the other one that happens on a regular basis and is not sending a positive message to the faculty is when the first 5 or 6 rows are full, then there are 2 or 3 rows empty, and then a student is sitting in the back. The student is sending the message of, I'm not interested in what you have to share. I'm here because I have to, but not because I want to. And again, that's the wrong message to be sending. So please keep this in mind, is really essential. The other piece is asking, so what did we do yesterday or last time? Did we do anything that was important, right? Obviously, every session is important. And you shouldn't ask the faculty what was covered, but in fact, you should be asking your colleagues, your classmates are the people that would be able to hopefully provide you with notes and everything else. And again, Doing homework for other classes during class time is not an acceptable behavior. I am aware that in some high school classrooms, I have seen it myself. In some high school classrooms, sometimes you have a student who is half paying attention to the class and is doing homework for another class because that's the next class after lunch, perhaps. That's not acceptable behavior. Most faculty, if they see that, they will ask you to leave the classroom. Again, laptops are not always allowed because students sometimes start surfing the web, checking out their email, or doing other things that may be distracting to other students that are around them. Texting in class is not acceptable. If you need to text somebody, right, because it's absolutely necessary, step outside, go use the restroom, and do that. But also, it's not appropriate for you to be getting up and going in and out. Your family, your friends, your loved ones should know when you have class and why they shouldn't interrupt, right? Because it's distracting to you, it's distracting to the people around you. I deduct points towards the final grade when I catch students doing that multiple times. Again, slouching in class is another behavior that tells the faculty member, I'm not interested in your class or the material. And the other one is not taking notes, right? So we invite you to take as much notes as possible. If you are a recent high school graduate, you should have taken a class or they should have taught you how to do this. But if not, in many community colleges and universities, there is an introductory class to college that will teach you how to take notes and why notes are important in preparation for midterms, finals, and other information that you need to have. And then just other information here about behavior that may be irritating to your faculty member, including pretending that you understand the material only to raise your hand a couple of minutes later and ask for clarification. If you didn't understand it, but the faculty member says, are there any questions about this before they move to the next topic? You should feel comfortable with raising your hand. And if you absolutely are an individual who's very, very shy, that's why office hours were created. But the other reality is we invite you to raise your hand because there's going to be at least a few other classmates that also didn't understand perhaps what was just explained and who will benefit. It's not just about you, but it's about creating a community. Again, asking, will this be on the test? Again, assume that everything that is discussed in class is going to be on the test. Some faculty members will provide you with some form of a study guide, other faculty members will not. So assume that everything is on the test, and this is why you should be taking notes all the time. In fact, the best way to do this is as you walk into the classroom, immediately take out your notebook, take out your pen or pencil, whatever is your choice, and just put it on top of the notebook. When the faculty member walks in, they typically look around the classroom and they will immediately notice who's ready to get into the material. If when the faculty member starts lecturing is when you're unzipping your backpack and start getting your notebook out, again, that shows that you're not ready to do this work. The other one is being more interested in grades than actually learning. The goal of college is about you learning material, learning the skills, learning the ability to analyze information, right? Grades are going to get you to either that master's, that PhD, and that's fine. But we need you to learn how to analyze material. So if you show too much of an interest on getting an A than actually mastering the material, that can be an irritating behavior. And blaming bad grades on teachers. Many of us give plenty of time for students to get their job done. We also refer you to the library, we refer you to our writing center, to the tutorial center, and other resources so that you don't fall behind, so that you can always be on top. And to come back and say, well, I didn't pass that class or I didn't get that good grade because this faculty member didn't like me. Maybe that work in high school, maybe that work in middle school, maybe that works somewhere else, but that's not behavior that is tolerated in college. And again, if that's how you are behaving in college, then unless you learn the discipline to be successful, that's the behavior that people will see in the job site when you have a career. And that will present an issue on whether or not you stay with that company or whether they let you go. Again, giving excuses for incomplete work. I've had many, many excuses. My mom was in the hospital, but they have no records of it. My grandma has been really sick, but there's no records of it. I've had my grandma die, but there's no records 2 or 3 weeks later, right? The student says, oh, I cannot get that information. Well, it's questionable. Again, it's all about maturity in college. And then swearing in class, it just shows that you're not being mature enough to be in this environment. And then there are some students who choose to disclose too much personal information. Again, you need to learn the discipline on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate for the classroom. And again, there are classes that can teach you about, again, how to be a successful college student. Recently, because of Chat GPT and Chat Zero and other apps and sources of artificial intelligence, faculty all over the United States are finding that students are relying too much on apps and websites like this in order to cheat. If you have to write a 10-page essay and you were not disciplined enough to do the work, and so the night before you go to one of the sources and say, write me a 10-page essay with sources about this topic, the computer is going to get that done for you in 2 minutes. But I need you to understand that faculty have sources and resources, I should say, like Chat Zero or Turnitin or other resources where we can grab that essay, submit it, and in a couple of minutes, it will tell us whether or not you wrote that, whether or not an AI system wrote that. But the other piece is a lot of the time, those systems like ChatGPT make a lot of mistakes. And this is why these other computer systems can catch those mistakes. Some faculty at different colleges and universities are now going back to having students bring their resources in one sheet of paper for their final and actually having the student write the essay by hand in the classroom. So again, cheating can get you kicked out of college. Plagiarism can get you kicked out of college. So if you don't know how to do citations properly, there are classes, there are trainings that can help you do that through the library, the writing center, or other places. But please be careful because that can follow you. If you get kicked out of one college, sometimes that information will be transferred with your transcript to another college. And we don't want that for you. We want you to be successful. This is why I'm spending so much time talking about this. And therefore, we should talk about behaviors that will make you a successful student. One, you should introduce yourself to all of your professors during the first week. So when you go to the first class, the professor will say, these are my office hours, this is my phone number, this is my email. If you have decided that you're going to stay in that English class, in that psychology class, whatever class that you're taking during office hours, stop by for a minute. and say, Professor, my name is so-and-so. I am in this class, which is Monday and Wednesday. Because remember, many of the faculty are teaching 5 or 6 classes. You want to make sure they remember who you are. And so you tell them your name, the date, the time, and the class that you're taking. And then you just say something like, I look forward to learning a lot in your class. Or the material that is in the syllabi is really interesting to me. Or let's say it's a psychology class and you are a psychology major. I am excited about this class because I plan to be a therapist, maybe a social worker, so on and so forth. So again, just show up and introduce yourself. This works in 2 different ways. One, next time the faculty walks into the classroom, they'll be able to recognize you. And eventually they'll memorize your name. And that means that they may end up calling on you. And some students are not comfortable with that, but also that means they will remember you when they write a letter of recommendation for you. Faculty are not required to write you a letter of recommendation, but many of them will do so if you have created a healthy relationship with your faculty. It doesn't mean that you have to stop by office hours every week, but over time, they will be interested in you. If you said that you're going to be a social worker, for example, at Santa Rosa Junior College, I teach in the humanities department, but because I have a nonprofit organization that trains future therapists, I have now started a psychology majors mentoring program for Latinx students because my nonprofit teaches that specific population. And therefore, if you come to my office hours and you say, this is my goal, then as a faculty member, I'm more likely to refer you to an internship, to refer you to a summer program at Stanford University or something of the kind. Again, and there's a difference between what we call brown nosing, where you just show up because you just want to be in the good graces of the faculty. And there's something else where you create a healthy relationship. So please develop those skills. You're going to be nervous the first couple of times, but faculty want you to come by and say hi. When you're walking on campus, when you're walking around and you see a faculty, you can just remind them, hey, Dr. So-and-so, oh, Professor so-and-so. Not every faculty has a PhD. So therefore, you can just refer to them by either their name or their last name, right? Or just professor. It's important. Now, some faculty will require you to call them Dr. So-and-so. Some of us, hey, Rafael, I have no problem with it, but other faculty deserve to be treated with respect and they will treat you with such respect. Okay. So again, creating those helpful relationships. It is also important to create those helpful relationships because later on, if you're having trouble in the class, but the faculty sees you show up to class every time, they're more likely to say, you know what, come during office hours, we'll go over a couple of things that will be helpful. Or come over during office hours and I'll give you another book that may make this material a little bit more understanding. Or send me an email and I'll send you a video that will break it down using different language and perhaps that will be useful to you. Again, I have students who now have PhDs, masters, bachelors at many universities. I have a student who is a professor at Yale University now, a colleague, as I call her. I have another colleague now, Dr. Monica Cornejo, who is at Cornell University. And again, they started as my students and now they're colleagues. Those are the healthy relationships that you should create with faculty. And then exchange information that you feel comfortable with your classmates. So don't share your Instagram, don't share your TikTok, don't share all that stuff, that information at first. An email address will be helpful the first couple of weeks. If by the end of the semester you feel comfortable, then you can share an Instagram account. There are some students who also develop a study group, and they may use WhatsApp as a way of communicating and setting up a meeting time to study. Or they can do it through Instagram, or they could do it in a different way. But again, only share the information that you feel comfortable. I always suggest start with an email. And then remember to eat healthy or as healthy as possible. Many community colleges and universities have what we call a pantry where you can go on a weekly basis and get some free food. It's not available everywhere, but it is something that you should inquire about. And then drink plenty of water, avoid energy drinks, avoid coffee, because you want to be able to be active and not depend on this type of chemicals to be able to function. The other thing is because you're sitting so long in the classroom and doing homework, if you're consuming energy drinks, a lot of these energy drinks have a lot of sugar, which is really unhealthy long term. Again, the other piece that is important when we talk about your health, many colleges and universities offer nutrition classes. Take one of those classes to learn how to eat healthy, how much exercise you need every week, so on and so forth, or take a kinesiology class. So if you like boxing, take a boxing class, a karate class, a swimming class, whatever it is that is going to get you going. Many colleges also teach dance classes. If you like ballet folklorico or you like hip hop or you like some other type of dance class, that is a wonderful thing that can get you excited about doing exercise. And I already mentioned office hours, but it's important to keep reminding you about this. And then sleep is essential. Therefore, make sure that you break it down. Don't spend too much time online, but it also means putting your cell phone away 30 to 45 minutes before you actually go to bed. Same thing with your computer, video games, television, and so on, so that your brain understands, oh, we're moving towards the time to rest. And again, you should be getting enough sleep. Also, join a student club or organization. I am proud and privileged to have now been mentoring Mecha de SRJC at Santa Rosa Junior College for almost 18 years. And this is a student organization that puts on a conference for future college students every year. We advocate on many different topics, but on every college campus, there is a computer club, there is the chess club, sometimes there's the video games club, and many other things. So find something that will keep you engaged and on campus. The other thing that we know from research, a lot of students who come to class and then go home to do their homework, many of them, once they get home, oh, I should clean the house, I should do the laundry, or mom needs you to do this errand, or this other thing just came up, and then homework has to wait until midnight. Once you get out of class, go to the library and do your homework in the library. And then create study groups, as I mentioned. Those are essential. But the other thing that we know because of the pandemic and because of many other natural disasters over the last few years, the Surgeon General of the United States about a month ago declared that we have a national epidemic on mental health. We're all suffering to a certain degree on depression, anxiety, and we're just lacking social connection to others. This is why you should stay on campus and join a club, participate in student government, or something of the kind. But also remember that colleges offer therapeutic services. Sometimes it's group therapy, Sometimes it's individual therapy. And at some colleges, once a week, they bring the dogs. So they have therapy dogs that you can just go and sit with the dog and just pet that dog, a long conversation with that dog, and then go on your way. But check out therapeutic services at your college or university. And then become familiar with departments like financial aid, scholarships, the health services, the writing center. Again, health services, you are paying for these services. So if you're getting a cold, go check them out. If you are not feeling well, go check them out. They also provide other things like checkups, physicals sometimes for you when you're applying for a job or sports, but they also have often reproductive tools, right? So if you need condoms, some colleges and university have those because we want you to be successful. So please take that into consideration. The writing center, again, nobody's perfect on their writing. Take that from somebody who migrated to this country at the age of 15 and now I'm fully bilingual. Yet I make mistakes when I'm writing on the board. So don't feel ashamed. Go to the writing center, have them review your work before you turn it in. Then there are programs like EOPS for poor people and EOP. And don't be ashamed to use that, right? People say, oh, low income. No, no, no. If you're poor, don't worry about it. I was a poor student for many years during college and even after. And now I'm privileged to be a professor. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. But again, go to those services. Sometimes they can provide you support with books, early registration, and much, much more. And these services are available at every community college in California and every university that is public universities in California. And then there are the dream centers. At Santa Rosa Junior College, I started providing services for undocumented students in 2004. And in 2015 or so, I was one of the individuals that basically worked very hard to make sure that Santa Rosa Junior College would have a dream center. And then I trained other individuals from other community college and universities to have their own dream centers. Dream centers are places where individuals who happen to be undocumented can come and receive support so that they can too be successful. Disability resources. In every college and university, they may call it something different. But disability resources are resources that are available for people who maybe have a learning challenge or a physical challenge, or maybe you fell during the summer break, you broke your arm that you usually use to take notes, and now you need somebody to help you take notes for another month until your arm heals. Check them out. If you were a student in high school who had IEPs, individualized educational plans, or a 504 plan, make sure you grab that information from your high school and go visit your disability resources department so that they can support you. Educational equity means that those who can read really fast should be able to get the same access to the education as those students who maybe needs somebody to audio record the information for them, right? Those are the tools for equity. And then in college, again, it's all about learning how to think for yourself, how to critically analyze information. So when you walk into the classroom, be willing to listen to different perspectives without judgment. During the first day of class, I always tell my students, who, by the way, I call them colleagues, because I truly believe that everybody brings something into the classroom. But not everyone is going to call you a colleague, and that's perfectly understandable. But what I say is, in this class, you're going to get an A, even if you disagree with everything I present. but you have to demonstrate that you can use your critical analysis skills. And this leads to wonderful conversations and some disagreements. And that is the beauty of education. So don't be scared if you hear a different perspective, a different point of view from your own. Be willing to engage. That requires for you to have read the material ahead of time and come prepared. Come to the classroom with your questions and your ideas, and it's okay for somebody to disagree with you. Remember to read every day, not just what is required, but what is recommended, and visit your professors with well-formed questions. This is what the father of Dr. Sudhir Venkatesh told him. Dr. Sudhir Venkatesh is a professor at university in Chicago, and this is what his father offered him as he went to college. And remember that education is the passport to the future, for the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And that was said by Malcolm X. My name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman. I am a humanities faculty member at Santa Rosa Junior College, and at on my Instagram, Líderes del Futuro, with double O at the end, you can find positive messages every day in English and in Spanish, because we all need to start our day on a positive note. And if we're all feeling down, that's not helpful. Let's support each other for success. Thank you for your time.